Hi.
Look at your beautifully young scrubbed faces. Gosh, you are gorgeous. How are you all? I'm Michelan, Mike, old guy, whatever you want to use, I'll answer. Thank you for keeping alive something that I have a very soft spot in my heart for, and that I thought would never have any sort of recognition beyond our short-lived Broadway run. So what can I answer? What questions do you have that I can answer for you?
I guess like the main one is just, you know, what stories, what memories you have of working on the show that you'd like to talk about.
Well, there were a lot. I mean, and I'm an old fart now, so there are fewer that are still rattling around inside here, but I'll try to dig up what I can. First of all, it was a joy from beginning to end, with the exception of the costume in my situation. And I absolutely adored what we were trying to do. I have a question for you. Did you guys know of the earlier script when it was done in Russia? How different was it? Still William Gibson's script?
Yeah. Oh yeah, it was.
Yes. How different was that script from what we put on Broadway?
So I mean, it was really similar. Like it was the same plot essentially. It was a lot darker in some ways.
Darker?
Somehow. Darker, yes.
Yes.
Darker.
I didn't know you could get darker.
I mean, his earlier drafts that never even made it on stage were even darker.
So besides pulling the heads off the dolls, they did other things to the dolls. I see this. Okay. Interesting. I thought that we were the ones who made it much darker.
Broadway, I think in general, was a lighter version of the script.
It was certainly a more song and dancey version, that's for sure. I don't know about how much lighter. We had him in the first act. At the end of the first act, they loved us. Shortly after the beginning of the second act, they didn't love us so much. when Dr. Doom?
General Doom.
General Doom. When he was at the doll hospital where he would do nasty things to the poor little dolls in the beds. We kind of lost the audience then. We had a lot of little ones in the audience crying.
I've heard that Leo was especially terrifying.
Oh, Leo, God bless him. What a wonderful, wonderful man. Great actor too, miss him. He was chewing scenery by that point. They would get him set up before the show started.
Yeah.
And they had that little machine that would spray the webs all over him.
Yeah.
And he'd be standing there in the hallway going, I hate this, I hate this, I hate this, I hate this. And they would just cover him with these cobwebs.
Carrie told us.
And we have a photo of it too.
Oh, you do? Oh,
from
even better.
Carrie's website.
Even
I
better.
didn't know that was the specific pose. The pose from her website is him like awkwardly standing there.
Exactly. They wanted to get it to hang like tendrils.
Yeah.
So they had to put his arms out. Oh, the things we did. Just notice the Raggedy Ann blanket behind you. That's
Oh yeah.
And you got a Kermie? Is that a Kermie hanging out?
Yeah. Oh, do you want to see him? Oh my gosh.
I see him a lot actually, but that's okay.
Would you like to see him? Would you like to see my Kermit?
Yes, please. There's the boy. That's very cool.
Him. Thank you. I took him with me to Disney World the last time I went.
They still accept us there. We're not persona non grata yet. Oh, okay. So I mentioned the costume thing in my situation.
Yes, Carrie mentioned that as well.
I never met Jeannie, Vigilante, right?
Yeah.
I never had the pleasure of meeting her. I hope that she didn't have the same costume that they started out with me, which was basically shag carpeting with the rubber backing still on it. And I thought that I had dealt with hot costumes in my career, like turtles and stuff like that.
Yeah.
That was a hot costume. However, God bless them, by the time we finished DC, the wardrobe department had created a ventilated version of my costume. So it was just like a wig with big, long, shaggy hair hanging off. And that lowered the temperature by at least 10 degrees. When we started doing the rehearsals for the show, the first time we got to costume fittings and such, I was going, well, you know, I sweat a lot and I'm going to sweat even more in this. So there would be little puddles of sweat followed me around wherever I went until they had mercy and she made that wonderful alternative version for me.
Do you remember how you even got involved with the show?
Oh, okay, there you go. This might be a bit spotty and iffy in recollection, but I believe the chronology was that I had been hired to do Once Upon a Mattress up at ASIPA. They liked me, I liked them. And so that's how it came about for me. I had been hired as a New York actor to go up and do the mattress, and they liked me and talked to me about doing Panda, which I had no frame of reference for whatsoever.
We don't know much about the Kennedy Center production. So little written about it.
Yeah, well, rightfully so. It was basically what you saw on the Broadway production, except for, believe it or not, it was actually a bit lighter still by the time we opened on Broadway, and a couple of things like Mexico and such, those were trimmed down or lopped out altogether for time. It looked very small in the Kennedy Center though, because that's a huge stage. I've played that stage many times and I love it, but it's just too big for shows. The end of the first act, we were very successful up to that point. And the cloud number with the ship and everything, and they had a really, for that, especially at that time, a decent special effect on that ship and how it would come up and just seemed to float a bit because it had a rocking motion to it. In the hydraulics.
Oh,
Yeah,
we didn't know that.
That's impressive. Yeah, we didn't know that.
it was very cool, and a lot of dry ice, so there was fog on the ground.
Yeah.
And everything. They had put this in, so it did at least 2 rocks, because I was on the back, and I remember having to adjust for the second rock.
Yeah.
I had to adjust in advance, otherwise I'd be in trouble. But yeah, it did that. And then the fog came up, and you would actually hear a real audience ooh.
Yeah, you can
kind of
hear
thing.
that.
Isn't
you can
that
hear it on the
cool?
bootleg everywhere.
And then we come in and slap him in the face in the second act.
Oh yeah. No.
I do distinctly remember at some point we did fly Joe, but I don't know if it stayed. Fly is a relative term. I did Peter Pan, so I know from boy flying and that kind of really cool stuff. This was just like lifting Joe up in the camel suit and letting him float for a second and bring him back down. I think because it was so not spectacular, they decided not to do that anymore.
There's just so much that you just throw at the audience.
It was
and they
visual. It was eye candy for days. Yeah, they had everything to look at. Why do I remember a puppet? I don't know. I've had so many puppets in my life.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Oh, definitely.
Total confabulation.
We don't expect you to remember any of this.
It's like,
Anything specifically. We just,
I remember heat. I remember pain. And I remember little children being frightened. Oh my God.
There is a small section from a review of them on the boat, of the fish scene.
How cool.
The fish. Yeah, the big giant fish puppet that spits water.
I forgot about that.
Then a bit of Ivy singing Rag Dolly.
Always a joy. There were 2 points each performance when I wasn't on stage that I would go to the wings to listen, and that was one of them. What else?
Do you remember if the song Mexico, like how far that made it on Broadway?
It did get cut. Joe, from what I remember, Joe fought to keep that in, but we were having issues, as you can imagine, with the show and the running length too. It was for the younger set, and there were a lot of the audience. It was a bit long at times. We learned that in DC when we were at the Kennedy Center. You know how a young audience can start to get a little restless. Well, in DC, middle of the second act, you could start to hear the candy wrappers and programs and people going up to the bathroom, and it was like Grand Central Station we're performing in. How nice. When you come back, we'll finish. It's all right. But no, it was an interesting experience all the way around. Unlike any other Broadway show that I've done, and I was privileged to do others, it was a unique experience.
Sad too, because by that point, Andy had so many fewer sections.
Yeah, Andy became kind of the sidekick of Raggedy Ann. He was there for some good ideas and to look pretty like the rest of us.
Yeah.
That was an issue, I think, with all of the secondary characters, including Panda, was that there were much in my estimation. There are much more useful ways to make use of the characters, not only in advancing the storyline. It had a feeling to me a large part of the time that we were just there to react to what happened. There was not a chance for the characters to really carry the storyline. It was all on Ivy's shoulder as far as the music was concerned.
Yes.
Oh yeah.
And the dramatic as well, because the storyline was only advanced through her or Lisa. Could have been much better, I thought, much better use made of the secondary characters, especially among the group of the five of us. They did expand, I guess, because it was Broadway and they wanted to make it more musical theater. They expanded the Bat and the Wolf a lot, and General Doom as well. I thought in the end, and I think it proved true to a large extent, that doing that made the show much darker for the younger set, and therefore it didn't have the chance that it might have had to last.
Yeah.
It's funny though, because I thought we kind of sussed that out in Washington. And when we got to New York, I don't know if it was, we had to freeze the show at some point or what was going on, but I thought there could have been more adjustments made to give it a lighter touch.
Like it became more song and dance, and it became a lot lighter in its theming. But it became a lot darker in like the visuals and like especially Leo and just like having a General D who is like terrifying and shouty.
He was having fun, let me tell you.
Oh yeah.
We don't know much of the choreo from later on at all.
There wasn't a heck of a lot of choreography. It was blocking with movement more than anything else. Except for Gail, of course, she had the number. Yeah, that was the only really dancey thing. Everything else was character stuff. I was doing, I was doing whatever I could, is basically what it was. Pat gave me some specific things to do choreographically, but most of the time it was my movement and choreography was dependent on what I had to accomplish at that moment. There was also lots of stuff I was doing throughout the show, much like in Peter Pan when I was the oldest lost boy in captivity. You had things that you had to make sure were done stagecraft wise, like in Peter Pan, you had to make sure that the Wendy house got built safely. In Raggedy Ann, I was always dealing with something in between dialogue or songs that had to do with stage or set or something that had to be done. So some of my movement / choreography was story produced and some of it was very practical. I got to go move that stool over there. Because you got to do something. You just can't go pick up the stool and go, hi, I'm moving a stool. So you got to come up with some semi-creative way to get from point A to B. With stool in hand. It was the one bad review I got from John Simon. He called me inscrutable. Oh, okay. Here's another little side thing that was a real plus for me, just because it spoke to me. It must have been Carrie, but somebody came to me in the costume fitting stages, and when they were doing the vest, the red silk and gold threaded vest. And she told me, it must have been her, that the material she had for that was from Yul Brynner's, one of Yul Brynner's costumes in King and I. So that little piece of costume carried on the history of that incredible show and that incredible performance from him. And I thought of that every performance when I went on stage. I was carrying a bit of Yul Brynner in the King and I.
We plan on like not only preserving the show, but hopefully bringing it back properly.
Oh, that would be marvelous.
Yeah, that's the hope.
That's our goal.
That's an excellent goal, because like I say, with some other adjustments and a different, maybe a fresh look at it, that's a really viable show. It has potential.
We ended up
Mhm.
changing him to be not specifically a panda, but
I think
like
that's a grand idea.
a bear.
Yeah.
Change the lines to be a little less broken.
Ah,
Yeah.
yeah, that's a good
Yeah.
idea.
In essence, the same character.
Good.
For what lines he gets.
Yeah, with the paltry lines that they throw his way. Good. I'm glad of that.
So Mac
Um,
actually has a doll. And Mac also has a
Ah.
little penny. He's very
Oh, I like that.
handsome.
He's much more dog-like in that version. That's much nicer. I like the sweater vest. That's very
Yeah,
cool.
he's an academic.
Yeah.
See, now that makes a lot more sense.
There's still a lot of the same lines, but it's kind of coming from this like lofty philosopher.
Yeah, it would
that
be
he is.
fun to have him very sedentary when he's delivering and pontificating and doing that stuff, and then they'll go off and do different crazy physical things as
Mhm.
required. That would be a lot of fun.
Because he's just a quiet bear. He's not exactly prepared for this whole adventure.
No. He's just
He
along
didn't
for the
pack for
ride.
this.
We decided to make him English
Yes.
because.
Why not?
Why not? I mean, he doesn't have to be necessarily, but
If
like,
he's not a panda, he can be any damn thing you want.
get rid of the very stereotypical
Yeah.
part of him.
Yeah, it ain't 1986 anymore. You know what I'm
No.
saying?
There is a part in the original show where General D reaches for Anne's heart, touches it, and then like drops to the floor.
He's like poisoned by the love of her
By the
candy
love.
heart or something.
I remember Leo doing a very comical reaction to something, so it could have been something like that. It was an acid trip. What can I say?
Yes, exactly.
So we got rid of that.
That's a
and
good
we
thing.
replaced it with a sword fight.
A sword fight. There's
A little-
always room for a sword fight.
There's
I thought
always-
West Side Story would have been well
Yes.
served by a couple of sword fights.
You're right.
A little sword fight giving the bear something to do.
yeah.
Finally.
And,
Would have killed for that.
Yeah.
I'm recalling now there were definitely moments in the show that I could just look out at the audience and just, oh, nice looking house tonight. Yeah, there
where
weren't a
he's-
lot of moments for Panda.
No,
No.
we're not.
Which is so sad.
yes.
I was sad all the time.
Oh.
Aw.
He's just kind of there.
Yeah, Yeah.
He says some things sometimes.
he's being inscrutable. Yeah,
I mean,
he's over
both-
there being inscrutable. You inscrutable? Okay. The secondary characters really didn't have a lot to say about much of anything.
Camel at least got blue, but like it's
That's
like okay,
it.
you've done your song.
Now go stand over there. Be inscrutable with the Chinese thing. Well, should the day come when you actually can get this up on its feet, all of those actors will be very grateful.
Yeah,
Very
thank
good.
you so much.
It's
Yeah,
been a
thank you.
pleasure to meet you and to talk with you.
Yeah, you too. It's
You
thank
too.
you for talking
You
to
too.
us. It's been great.
And again, thank you for doing this and keeping Raggedy Ann alive.
Mhm.
Well worth it. You all take care.
You too.
You too.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.